It's the Rad Dad, Radley Belmont.
And Papa Bear Wade Kruger. And you're watching the 3 Count Podcast.
Same Stepdads time, same Stepdads channel.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring, and I'm your host Clifford Red Dog Miller. That's right, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, which you should address me as, you gotta have somebody who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. And that's why it's never about me, but it's about who's entering the ring. And today, you see who's entering the ring. You can find these guys at Titan. You can find them at True. You can find them at Tough and Talented. You can find them at NYCW. You can find them at Invictus. And you can find them at Pizza Party Pro. They are the guys who got the hippest dance moves. They're the guys that will give you the talk. They're also the guys that will read the newspaper and then beat your ass with that newspaper. It is Radley Belmont, Wade Kruger, the Stepdads.
So I gotta nobody told me there'd be any mountain climbing here. I think I'm out. I didn't know we were doing any mountain climbing.
No, wait, I see what's going on. On the mountain of wrestling, he's taking a pit stop. We're the gas station that starts right at the front of the mountain.
Yes.
Just go that way.
Where's Evan Courageous at? If this is the 3 Count Podcast, I need Evan Courageous and Shane Helms, Tank Abbott. Where are they at?
Yeah, I've been. You know what? I've hit them up. I've asked them. They said they'd get back to me, and then one of them left me on red. And you know what? It just happened. So I'm just whatever.
I've left Conan on red, so it happens. I understand. That sounds like a joke, but it's true.
It's a real thing.
It was weird because we're already walking on dangerous territory. I got a message from Conan. I was like, "Do you watch Keeping It 100?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I do."
Hey, we have exactly.
Tell your friends. I was like,
we have on our WCW podcast. We have exactly one follower who was a member of the WCW roster, and it's Buff Bagwell, and that's really all that matters in life. So it's the way it goes.
Yo, Buff is the stuff.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying.
Well, thank you guys for coming on and hanging out with me and talking about wrestling with me.
No problem. I mean, we're getting paid for this, right?
I think there's like it's paid in exposure. You get
okay. I was like the checks in the mail.
Yeah.
Explains why the
hot
envelope feels so thin.
But we don't got no hot dogs, and handshakes are forbidden right now because of COVID.
Sorry, house is a little light, brother.
The house is light. Sorry, man. We'll make it to you next time.
That's right. Who doesn't love hot dogs?
No, right? I mean, don't ask my family that because they're going to be like, no. So, just right off the jump, man, I'm going to ask the question, like, who are the Stepdads?
Oh, that's us.
Yeah, that's these two guys. I keep pointing over here, but up here. I can't really figure this out.
I have like an inverted. See how like we're it looks like we're acting, but this is like how we are. This is why the Stepdads is us.
Yeah.
Like
this looks like it's a dad joke of like us trying to figure out technology. No, this is just us actually trying to figure out technology.
This is very real. This is very real.
So, Stepdads, comedy based, like that's in our roots tag team. But we could do a little bit of everything. It's like think if two dads from a sitcom in the 90s had an episode where they needed to make money on the weekends wrestling, that's the Stepdads. It's like we're not trying to like just be straight up dads in the ring. It's like, if Danny Tanner, RIP, if Danny Tanner was going to wrestle on the weekends, he wouldn't show up in his khakis. He'd have some weird sort of khaki based cleaning gear. That's like our Stepdad's idea is like, what if a dad, on the weekends was also a wrestler?
Would he though? Like, would he do a clean gimmick, or would he call himself Dirty Dan? Because I feel like
well, it depends. It depends on which show we're on here.
Well, no, because like even on Full House, remember? Because like he had that alternate personality in the poker game where he was like, they call me Dirty Dan. Like, where'd you get these clothes? Like the laundry.
I wish he would show up as like his like long lost relative that he had the picture of on the wall from like the Civil War. That's who I want him to be. Like Lieutenant Danny Tanner.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But so I know you guys have had kind of like a great journey into the sport. So I'm just very curious, like, what brought you in, and then like what keeps you guys going into the sport?
Brad, I'll let you start this one.
Well, our entire careers tie in with each other, which is surprising because I used to live in Las Vegas and Wade here lives in New Jersey. And yet somehow through the wacky world of the internet and wrestling forums and just seeing clips of backyard wrestling, we were able to find each other and even hang out a few times in Las Vegas and Pennsylvania and things like that. Wrestling has just always been a part of our lives. I've been watching wrestling since literally before I can remember. I have, VHS tapes of myself as a little kid playing as the Ultimate Warrior fighting my Tigger. So that's always been the thing. With Wade, he absolutely loves sports. I mean, just look behind him. It's a smorgasbord of sports right behind him. That's not even a whole room. That's a corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so eventually, as the fates foretold, the Stepdads came to be when I moved to New Jersey as well, and we now live in the same house. It's kind of a wacky sitcom on its own. I got this downstairs floor. He's got the top floor, and we ended up becoming a tag team. Not just because we lived in the same house, but we had this unique chemistry of always wrestling each other and having such a good time where we didn't always have the best time wrestling other people. That in teaming up, we had the same type of humor. We're both really punny, corny, old souls, as it were, that the Stepdads just fit us because that's kind of who we were already. And
yeah, and
go ahead,
like
Wade.
it literally started, I mean, like most wrestlers, we literally started in backyard wrestling just as friends. And we just, everyone else kind of stopped. All of our friends kind of stopped or had already gone pro. And we were like, kind of felt like we were just hitting our stride and getting more comfortable in the ring. Like when I say backyard, I mean like we had a legit ring.
Yeah, like we're talking real wrestling rings. Like we're talking, I used to have tag team matches with Sonny Kiss. We're talking like legitimate training before shows. Like that's the stuff we're talking about here.
Because like guys from the area that we would know would come in and teach us how to run ropes and teach us, like we had a little bit of that knowledge, and then we kind of felt like we weren't done. We had more to give. Let's take this pro, get properly trained, and make a shot of it. And the Stepdad's name came with me from the backyard. That was like, but it was a different gimmick in the yard. It was more just like two cocky guys. Our slogan was "We beat you and you hate us." So that was like our we were just two heels, and then we just kind of figured let's take it all the way, because in wrestling there's no such thing as taking something too far. So we kind of just elevated it and made a full gimmick out of it, and that's how the Stepdads happened.
Yeah, I feel like the
That's
coolest
awesome,
part, the coolest part about wrestling is character. And we tried, especially early on, being green and everything. We tried so hard to throw so much character into everything we absolutely did. Because in my mind, and I'm sure Wade thinks the same thing, we were probably just going to be squashed for the first like 2 years of our career. So our goal was, what is the absolute most we could do? Just getting into the ring and maybe getting one move. And to us, the easiest thing to do is walk out in a robe and a sweater and a pipe, holding a thermostat, telling people not to touch it, and then spanking the road warrior guy or whatever, and then they just kill us. Like, it doesn't matter. It gets the character over, and that's all we cared about for a long time.
Yeah, so we used the gimmick to hide the fact that we sucked.
Now everybody knows, but we still try really hard.
Yeah.
That's all that matters though in life. Like that's really all that matters. You just gotta try, you know. It's cool. It's cool to hear like that's what you guys were doing, like throw as much character work as you could into your gimmick. Because I know like for me, right, like this is me going to my second year. By the way, full transparency, I'm turning 37 this year, so like I got into the game like super late.
Yeah.
But
we got in late too, comparatively to most people.
Are you aware of the Buff Dad? Do you know who the Buff Dad is?
Yes.
So
right.
No such thing as too late.
Yeah, you're junior compared to him. Okay, you got a long run ahead of you. You have a Bruno San Martino run ahead of you, according to him. So don't worry.
But I legitimately, you know, I throw as much character work into like what I do too, because I'm like, I know, and it's almost the same deal. Like I understand that like in your first couple of years, you're just gonna get crushed, and it is what it is. So you just take your licks and keep moving. And so I throw as much character work, or I do some kind of comedy spot in there just to make sure people know, like, oh, like he's a mercenary, but he's kind of like Deadpool, and he makes a lot of crude jokes, and I kind of vibe with that.
I mean, if you need to know how I feel about Deadpool, my wrestling name is Wade. So there you go. That's not a coincidence.
Nope.
But yeah, no, the comedy stuff, and the gimmick stuff is so helpful because it helps you really find who you are, and the more you do it in the ring, it starts to become second nature. So if you start out just by focusing on like the character stuff and less the moves, you're not worrying about too many things at once. You're just doing character stuff and doing it as the way you would. And then later on, when you focus more on the move side of things and the actual wrestling side of things, that character stuff is already going to be second nature. You don't have to think about it anymore. You react the way your character would react. So like, I don't need to think of like, oh, what would Wade say or what would Wade do? It's just because it's an extension of me. It just happens. And it elevates the wrestling if you're just in that mindset, because it adds a little extra layer to it.
Yeah. And what Wade's saying there, I can jump on there that it also works for your move set as well. If you're so character based, like for us, we do spanks. We'll do atomic drops on people's butts and then spank them. Like anybody can do an atomic drop, but we try to make every move we do just slightly unique. Our finishing move technically is the Doomsday device, just like the Road Warriors. The way we make it our own is that I jump off the top rope and hug the guy on the way down. So if we call it the Father's Day device, I'm practically giving a Doomsday hug on the way down. It's the exact same type of move, different type of way to protect the opponent, wink, wink. But at the same time, it makes it completely our own. And the more you do that, the more unique you are on a card. I don't remember the last time we had to go around the locker room and be like, is anybody doing spanks tonight? Is anybody gonna spank anybody? Like, you gonna win with a spank? Like, no, we don't have to worry about our match being similar to anybody else's on the card, whether it's comedy or not.
Yeah, and it takes something like a move like a flatliner. Like a lot of people do a flatliner, but because I just dip the guy and yell, "You're grounded," before I slam him face first into the mat, it becomes my own. And even if 3 other guys on the show are doing it, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like you're just seeing the same thing over and over, because it has that little extra oomph to it. Right. It's like all that character stuff is so important. All the moves are the words in a sentence. And if you just do a bunch of moves with no character work, you have a run-on sentence, and it has the same impact as if you just did like a whole, like, it doesn't have that same impact. But when you throw in those like poses and those comments and those quotes and those things that are you, that ends the sentence, and it like the crowd is like, okay, what's the next thing? Instead of being like, oh my God, there's so much I can't even keep track of what's happening. It has the same impact for you're doing less.
Yeah, it's like one of my falsies that I like to throw is a fisherman suplex. But before we go up, like I'll pick him up and I'll hold him, and I look out at the crowd, and I'll be like, "We're inverted," because like Top Gun, and then just take a guy over. Yeah. So I think about I love thinking about things like that, and my even my trainer is just like, dude, he's like, I don't know where you come up with half this shit, but I'm very grateful that you are focusing like on that aspect.
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to. It's not like, oh, what crazy thing can I do that's never been seen before? It's just make it yours. That's all you need to do.
For example, the guy that I credit for training me the most, his name is Johnny Cockstrong. Have you ever heard of him?
No, but I love the name.
I mean, that's the great thing about the name. It tells you exactly what you need to know. He's the inventor. I believe he's the inventor of the invisible choke slam. So if you've ever seen that, yes, pretty sure that's his. But everything he does is based on a very specific part of his anatomy. So he'll hit you with the go to sleep, but not with his knee, with something else. And Johnny Cockstrong will win that way. And he's doing the exact same moves that are at the time very famous in WWE, but he made them his own every single time. And it was hilarious. And also it was believable that he was winning because of the type of character he had. He wasn't insulting anyone's intelligence. He wasn't ruining kayfabe or, ruining anyone's selling ability or anything like that. We don't want people to like die when we spank them. It's just feeling a spank. So we're also very specific about that kind of stuff. We want a wrestling match to feel like a wrestling match. We want you to believe that we are stepdads that are going to win. Not just that we are stepdads and we're stopping time and this guy's going into the sky for no reason, and then there's we don't need any of that. We can do it just on character.
Like we have a spot where we'll steal someone's nose, and if we're wrestling a guy who is very serious, we won't tell him to act like he's silly. Like we want him to react like he would react, and we could make it work around that. It's like you don't want to make it seem, you don't want to ask someone to do something they don't do. You could work. There's a fine line in comedy, and you could make it work no matter the situation. You could be wrestling the most serious guy, and as long as you work it in a way that makes sense for them and for you, then that's really all you need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a place. It's something I think about too, because I know like I have this gun spot that I like to throw, right? And it legit comes like guy would throw a clothesline. I do a lucha roll, pop up, turn around, and legit, right? Like I have a gun, like bam, bam, shooting the shoulders, bam, bam, shooting the knees, and then they look at me like, "What the fuck was that?" And they come in with like a clothesline or like a forearm shot, and then knock them down.
That's
But-
the genius of like Orange Cassidy. There's so many people who are like, "Oh, it's not believable." It's not that they're selling his like weak kicks. It's that they're annoyed that he's like fucking with them,
Yeah.
and it throws them off their game. Like you look at it that way, and it's a totally different thing. Of like, why don't they just kill him? Because they're looking at him like, bro, what the fuck?
Except if you're Sting, and then Sting just joins in the joke, and then
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, I need this match. Like
'Cause Sting's got that dad
and Orange,
energy.
like when he looked at Orange Cassidy, he was just like, I was like,
Yeah.
what?
I love that.
Like no one sold it better to me than like Pac, because
Right.
Pac was just looking at him like disgusted. Like, are you like? I knew you were gonna. I know you do this, but you're really gonna do this with me. Like, of all, are you serious?
Right. So I'm curious. I want to know, because seeing how you guys have, we get two different people, we should probably get two different answers. But genuinely, I just want to know, what's the worst bump you guys have taken?
Ever?
Are we talking? Because the bumps we used to take in the backyard are stupid. I'll say in the backyard, I once took a like German suplex variation in a concrete driveway. I don't recommend that. In pro, nothing. Of all the stupid bumps, I've taken bumps on the floor. I once had the New York State Athletic Commissions threaten to cut a show short because I took a suplex on the floor. Of all the things I've taken, nothing hurt more than the time we were in a street fight, and I took a double choke slam on an upside down laundry basket. And it had like those kind of like cuts in the side, those like lattice kind of cut. So when it cracked, they were just jabbed in my back. And I tried to roll off, and then the guy tried to pin me on top of it. And that was the single most pain I've ever been in a match. I turned over and it was stuck in my back like I was a turtle. Don't recommend it.
No,
all right.
doesn't sound good at all.
So you're saying I can't have the exact same answers? Damn. All right.
I mean, did you get choke slammed on the
No,
laundry
there's
basket?
no
too?
idea.
No, I've had dumb choke slams, but not like that. The worst thing I ever did in backyard wrestling, and you're gonna have to picture it with me, okay? Because this really happened. So I am on another man's shoulders, like a doomsday device, okay? While another man is on the top rope, and he grabs me. He doesn't jump. He grabs me, pulls me to the top rope, and then Canadian destroyers me off of the other guy's shoulders. But here's the difference. I held on to the other guy below me. So as I was Canadian destroyered, I poison roned him over both of us.
It
And
should
that
not
wasn't-
have worked. I still
that
don't
wasn't the
understand the
finish.
physics of it.
That wasn't the finish.
It wasn't the finish. The finish was a submission. But that's dumb backyard wrestling for you. What's the worst? The worst thing that happened to me
Was
in
it
the
Mr.
pros-
Grimm splash in the corner?
Yeah, Mr. Grimm splashes in the corner are terrifying. Anybody who's wrestled Mr. Grimm, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Love the man, terrified of the splash. I'll throw you the wackiest one. We had a Christmas street fight
Oh yeah.
a couple of years ago. against these two giant guys. Their tag team name was Silent but Deadly because they didn't talk, but they were very mean. That's the reason.
Not because they
And,
farted a lot.
I was
no,
gonna
not
be
that.
like,
Not possible. So he's beating the hell out of us. Eventually, he gets so annoyed that he leaves the ring and goes to the set of the entranceway and literally rips the Christmas tree that was lit up, like right out, like pulls the cord out of the wall and brings it back, and then with one hand gets on the apron and tosses it at me. And it hits me in the head enough to make me moonsault and then pretty much have the tree pile drive me. And I landed into tons of broken bulbs everywhere. And there for a second, there's like 1 second of silence, and there's a fan in the audience that just far away goes, "What?" And I'm not sure if he said that because it was amazing, or if because it was the stupidest thing he'd ever seen anybody do. And
Which
I still
is pretty
don't
much
know.
our MO.
Still don't know. All I know is it's the main event. We're showing out, brother. We're winning the tag belts, and we did. So
Later
that's
in
what
that same
matters.
match, that Christmas tree got set up in the corner like a table, and I got speared through it. That tree got destroyed.
yeah. If you're that one fan that happened to see that match and yelled out "what," please put it in the comment below. I definitely want to see this.
I would love to know. I'm gonna assume it's a what of that was stupid and unrealistic, but who knows?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is you bring up something else, right? Talking about like things that probably shouldn't work, but the way like a match like ends, right? So I watched two, and I'm not gonna put out the Fed or names or anything, but I'm sure that they're gonna be listening to the show and they're gonna know what I'm talking about. So I watched two
Vince McMahon.
gentlemen in a ring, and one pile drived another person through a chair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Neither had really talked about the spot. They just kind of did it on the fly and didn't really make sense in the story. But the match ended in a submission. And I was like, I remember they came back and the first thing they asked me, they're like, so how was it? I was like, storytelling got to get worked on, man.
Was the submission like a head submission at least?
It was the Rings of Saturn.
So no.
No.
Speaking of funny finishes, I tell this to people all the time. The funniest thing I've ever seen in a match was
I'm already laughing.
Watched a guy. I'm not gonna say names. Watched a guy hit a black hole slam, and this was the finals to a tournament. This was the main event of the show. Guy hits a black hole slam, gets up super amped to hit his finish, just goes, "Get up!" And you can audibly hear his opponent go, "No." And then he just walks over and pins him. That's the end.
Wins the championship.
Tournament over.
I want this finish now. I want to do this one time.
And keep in mind, I saw this later on tape. So you could hear the guy say no from the hard cam. Not ideal.
No,
but,
you know what? It's memorable, and it
keeps wrestling interesting.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time, so
Here's one I got for you. I did a little storyline where if I lost, I had to shave my beard. So it was a 2-day show. So the first day I lost, I had to shave my beard. Nobody saw it though. So day 2, I came to the show, wore a mask the whole day. No, pretty much nobody on the roster even saw it. But the match I had that night was against this huge dude, and the whole match I'm working on his back, working on his ribs, that kind of stuff. Because chopping him down isn't going to work, that kind of thing, you know. And the psychology didn't seem to be there at first, because the idea was that I'm attacking his ribs. Why would I do that? I eventually put him in a figure 4, and he's not tapping out because I haven't attacked his legs at all. But I'm so desperate to win because I just want to get out of here with my mask, and so nobody will see my face. And when we're in the figure 4, he's reaching around, and he's a big guy, so he finally grabs my head and he pulls the mask off, and I have no beard. I look like a baby essentially, and he starts laughing, and he actually, and with no provocation from anybody, he gets the whole crowd to laugh at me while I'm like almost in tears because I don't want anyone to see my dumb face. He's laughing so hard, and I've worked on his ribs so much that he starts tapping out from that because he can't handle how hard he's laughing. And I win them, and so I'm literally, he lets go and he's still laughing in the corner. I'm trying so hard to cry in tears as the referee, laughing at me, hands me the belt, and then I grab the belt and I like slowly slither through the crowd as everyone continues to point and laugh at me. It's like one of my crowning achievements. I absolutely love that.
That's awesome, though. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm curious, right? So after a show and stuff like that, man, do you guys have like a post match meal, like a post match snack? Do you guys have to go to?
So it's funny. We don't have a specific post match show. Like we always try if it's within reason because we end up working far away from home a lot. So a lot of times it's not always feasible or it's late. We like to go out with some of the roster after a show if we can. That's always fun to like BS because you don't really get to hang out. Like it's always funny. People are like, "Oh, you see all these people every weekend. You don't really get to hang out at a wrestling show. It's not like you everyone's working on their match. Everyone's planning shit. So after shows, there's not a specific thing. Pre-show though, we go to Popeyes before every show, and we do not miss because the only times we've skipped it, we got to the show and the show got canceled. So now we can't skip Popeyes ever again.
Yo,
That's a fact.
that's
It's
funny.
fact.
That's funny though because I didn't have a pre-match ritual like at all, and I would just refuse to like. I was like, I'm not superstitious, right? But one day I just happened to have a bag of gummy bears in my bag, right? So I was like, well, I want something to snack on before a match. So as I'm snacking, I had this killer match, right? And my trainer was like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "You had a really that's the match. That's what we need from you from now on." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then the next show, I didn't bring a bag, and like I just was bad. It wasn't good. And so the following week, I brought another bag of gummy bears, and guess what? There's been a bag of gummy bears in my bag every week since then. I was like, I
It's as
refuse
simple.
to.
It doesn't have to be crazy. It's just like there's something about that. Like put out good vibes, and good vibes come back.
Yeah.
I will say
So
there's nothing sillier than once in a blue moon we'll have a big match and we come back through the curtain and we're like, yeah, that ruled, awesome, oh yeah, and I go into my bag, I go, yeah, victory sandwich, sweet, and I just start in there like, whoa, where the hell did you just get that sandwich?
Yeah, where did you just pull a Popeyes chicken sandwich from?
And I'm like, don't worry about it, this is for winners.
Yeah, because he'll always order two and have one for later.
Yeah,
A victory
like that.
sandwich.
There's victory sandwiches. You guys, you don't know about this.
And then
Yeah.
if we lose, I go to the back, I'm like, I must be a winner, I'm the only one with the sandwich back here.
Like, even if you didn't, be like, you know what? It's comfort food. It makes me feel like a winner when I eat one.
That's right.
There are like, but yeah, like pre-match like rituals. I don't think we have any specifically. Although, like Rad could tell you, there are some times where like certain matches, he'll see me just like hyping myself up in like the hallway. I'll be like pacing back and forth.
Usually weapons matches.
Yeah, if it's like a big blow off match, I'm usually like amped and I'm like walking back and forth, pacing, talking to myself, hyping myself up, slapping myself in the face. It gets out of control because like the last time it happened, it was this big blow off match and it got moved to first on the card because guys weren't there yet, so we were first. And in my head, like I knew it wasn't. But in my head, to hype myself up, I was taking it as disrespect, but I wasn't like taking it as like, oh, they're doing this. In my head, it was just like, well, now we're gonna go out and kill it, and all these fuckers have to follow us. Good luck to them. Like, guess what? You're all fucked now. Like that's how I'm like getting myself hyped, and like it works. It works for me.
Yeah. In retrospect, it was really funny to watch you walk back and forth, and I could just vaguely hear you be like, "Sucks for the rest of the card." Oh man, it sucks for them. Oh, this is gonna be the best. Oh, main event first, whatever. You want the main event first? All right. I'm just like, what? All right.
I get like weirdly like active too. Like, since losing a bunch of weight, I have surprising ups now. So like, I'll be in the back just like jumping up and down, and he'll be like, "Bro, calm down." I'm like about to hit the ceiling.
I can do an indie kick, so.
Yeah, I could. Don't tell anyone. I'll do it
It's a
one day.
secret.
Well, I'm curious though, because like you bring up like another point that I wanted to hit on. It's like, what's like one of the hardest things about being a tag team?
Sucking.
Um,
That's what the hardest part is.
I mean, I love it. Like I find way more problems in um single stuff because like it's just you with tag team you get a break, you get to watch, you get to like the fact that I get to be on the apron for a while lets me observe the crowd, which is hard to do when you're in a singles match. It's nice to be able to observe the crowd and kind of play off of them, which is something you get to do in a tag match. Um, I mean, the hard part is just as a face team is sometimes not being in control. Um, because you're really trusting that your opponents know what they're doing and will control the pace of the match and be where they're supposed to be. Um, but my way of kind of working with that is, and Rad could tell you, I don't forget spots, and I don't mean my spots. I mean everyone's spots.
Like he'll remember the eliminations of a battle royal he's barely in. That kind
And
of thing.
I'll be calling them out to other people if they're forgetting them. And I will find ways to do it from the apron. So like if someone is lost, I will tell them their spot that I'm not even involved in somehow.
Or
Um,
tell him to throw a clothesline.
yeah, or tell them to their face in the middle of a match and yell at them, "You won't try to clothesline me right now," if I need to. Or I'll call someone over and be like, "You go over and get that fucking guy because he's fucking his shit up."
Oh, you made Wade mad. Look what you did.
But no, that's just like, and that comes, a lot of that comes from actually the backyard stuff because when we were in the backyard, everything was just complicated. Like we weren't wrestling a match that made sense. It was just a bunch of crazy sequences in a row to pop our friends. So the guy I tagged with at the time, he didn't do spots. Everything he did was a sequence that was reversal into a spot. So I had to remember all of it. And it prepared me big time because I don't forget anything anymore. And if I do, it's like, be worried because I'm probably concussed or something.
Yeah, right.
It's weird though, because I've heard times where guys have like been concussed, like they'll just black out, but then like they cruise the rest of the match, like their body just goes in autopilot and they still know everything.
That's what happens. So yeah,
it's more timing stuff when that happens. Like I've had it happen a couple times. It's more just being, it's like ring placement stuff, losing where I am in the ring. Like I'm supposed to have my back to a certain spot and I am staring at a guy when he's like getting up. It's little shit. It's all that little shit.
I mean, with my experience, I did a lot of singles wrestling when I was being trained and doing backyard and stuff like that. And I did singles my first year as a pro for the most part. So I had, it sucks to drive alone hours and hours to a show. It sucks when you don't know who to ask for advice, who to talk to. It sucks when you don't have anyone to just talk about like, oh, that match sucked. That match was awesome. Oh, what could I really improve on other than like a trainer or an agent or someone who wasn't there that might see some footage. So and as well as the aspect of storytelling, like with Wade and I, it's awesome because we're both pretty much on the same page despite being very different styles of wrestling. Like I grew up on Southern style WCW, kind of on the fly style of wrestling. I was very technical. I still love to do technical wrestling. I don't do a ton of it on the shows. I do them before the shows when I'm chaining with people who want to learn how to chain, but it's a completely different style from him. 2000s Ring of Honor, Chikara, like
super
fast
indie wrestling
paced
stuff, strong style, Japanese King's Road. Like that's the shit I meant to do. It's totally opposite. And like I get a lot of my inspiration from like old Chikara and like comedy, like literally comedy shows is like I get inspiration from.
Mm-hmm. And when we can take those jokes and like wrestlify them into spots, that's something a lot of singles guys can't do. Or as great as Orange Cassidy is, he's one man trying to do a lot of the same spots all the time. He has his own spots. I have my spots. We can combine them to make even newer, fresher spots all the time. There's so much more to do. And with 4 people to play with, there's so much more involved that can or cannot be used at any given time. We've forgotten about tag moves and spots that 4 years ago I'll be watching old video and be like, that's hilarious. Why aren't we doing that anymore? And it's just because we're constantly evolving. We're talking, we have
Yeah, because you're wrestling an opponent that maybe can't do a certain spot, or
Yeah.
like it's not the right size or the right style or the right mood, or maybe it's a shine where I'm taking the lead, so like I'm in more of it, or maybe it's a shine where Rad's taking the lead, so he's doing more of the stuff, and we have different stuff depending on who's doing it. I mean, I know you asked about like I honestly think tag wrestling is like the best, and I really don't think there's a lot of downfalls to it, except the fact that there's more moving parts, which makes
Yeah.
it more difficult to coordinate. It's a lot more trust to put into someone else.
Yeah, Arn Anderson once said, "The best match a main event could possibly be is a tag team match. A tag team match will beat a singles match every time if done right." And I thoroughly agree with that. I believe tag team wrestling is perhaps on at its peak the best form of professional wrestling. That's just my opinion.
And you've been in the ring, you could probably attribute like sometimes you're in there and like you watch something back and you're like, man, they really pop big for that. I didn't hear that in the moment because you're so in the zone.
Right.
It's so nice. Like when we go to the back, Rad could be like, oh man, I felt like they weren't getting into it. And I could be like, no, I was on the apron. I was like, help it. I could hear it. Or like if I feel the crowd dying, I can get them back into it from the apron. I get more blown up on the apron than I do in the match because I'm trying to get the crowd hyped. I'm trying to be a character. I'm stealing stuff from TV shows and doing it like in a match. Like I've literally taken stuff from Arrested Development straight up and just done it in a match. It's something about having someone else. Someone's watching your match. It's like if I do a cool spot, we can go to the back and I'd be like, oh, how did that look? Because like I'll know Rad will have seen it from the apron. It's a nice thing to have.
And you
That's
literally
cool,
have
though.
two people on the outside of the ring constantly trying to improve the match while you're inside the ring. That really enhances the match as well.
And you get to take breaks.
Yes.
It does help.
That's cool though, because it's something like because I've mainly worked like singles matches. Like I don't get to work tag team just because like I am a singles wrestler. But here in 2022, you guys will probably see it sometime. But me and a bunch of my friends, we're all gonna start teaming up and start working different shows. So you're gonna start seeing more of us. But I was like, yeah, I'm so used to working as a singles competitor. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna transition to this side, and I'll start learning more about how to do things better on this side. Then come back across. So
it's fun too because like you get to hide your like when you're with someone else. If they have a different style, it can hide your weaknesses and elevate. Like you get to do the stuff you're best at, and maybe like I'm not the best with the technical stuff. It's not my style. But like so if Rad's in there with a guy who's doing more technical stuff, we can match that up better. And if I'm in there with like a guy who wants to like throw some shots and fuck each other up, then I know I'm in there for it. Like it's fun because we get to work to our strengths and hide our weaknesses.
That's awesome though. I'm curious though. So what kind of advice would you want to give to like up and coming wrestlers?
Don't
get out.
Don't.
The biggest advice I can give is so I feel like this is a lot of things that's being taught at like schools is like you learn a little bit of everything. And that's good because you should know how to do a little bit of everything. But if you're really good at something, I think it's missing in today's wrestling a little bit more on the indies. If you're like really good at technical or you're really good at something, focus on it and try to get as good as you can at that thing. And then fill in the other stuff like as you go. Go to seminars, learn more stuff. But like if you're a technical guy, go to every technical seminar you can. Become the best at something because I used to love in wrestling. You'd be like, oh, I want to see that match. It's such a weird styles clash. I wonder how it's going to work. There's really no such thing as like, oh, that's going to be a big styles clash, unless like a death match guy and a technical guy. Like, but so many people can do everything now that like I want to see someone who's just like I want to see this guy who is like the best technical wrestler wrestle the best power guy and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I that's a weird advice, but it's just a personal feeling. Like I love it's like when you see like Finley, like who's a super great technical guy, but can also brawl a little bit, but is like really good at that style, wrestling someone like Mysterio. Like that's such a styles clash, and you don't get those that much on the indies anymore because guys do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, nowadays you get like a Zack Sabre Jr. It just does technical. It makes all of his matches very unique.
Yeah, it creates because when everyone can do everything, it creates a style that is more. You could see it from anyone. I mean, you still have their moves in it, which is the important. But that's why you need your stuff to stand out. But like when everybody does everything, then nothing feels as unique anymore.
No, I like that though.
Yeah. That's good. That's
Like
good. My advice would be something I tried to do since day one is every time you, especially when you start, every time you wrestle, think about if you would be the kind of wrestler you would want to see, that you would pay money to see, that you would actually be interested in watching a match of. And if you're not, continue to find ways to do that. And I'm not saying be yourself per se, but think of the kind of humor you like, the kind of style you like, the kind of attitude of your character that you would like to pay for, that you would pay for. And it doesn't have to be a 50 Steve Austins. I'm not talking like that, but just like the best version of you that you as a fan would love to see. That's extremely important. I think a lot of people don't follow their hearts when it comes to things like that. They're like, well, my trainer told me I got to do this. My name's John, so I'm just going to be John, and I'm just going to be a wrestler man. And that's my gimmick. And it's like,
if you're not popping yourself, what are you doing?
yeah. If you're not getting out there being like, that was really cool and fun, and I want to see how that spot went and see the footage, I don't know if you're really the guy yet. You know, you got to keep building to that. And that might take multiple gimmick changes too. And you should not be afraid to change gimmicks over time if you have to.
Yeah, and the other advice is like, this is something that since day one is something I always think of every time I do anything, is just always do everything you do for the person in the back row. Everything needs to be like, there's no such thing as too big in wrestling. If you're kicking out, the guy in the back row should see it. Don't do these like the guy in the last row should see it. If you're doing a facial expression, like, even if you're doing it towards a specific side of the crowd where the other crowd can't see it, do it so they can all see it. Like, do everything big and make moments. Not everything has to be seen by everyone. You could create moments. Like, I'm on the apron sometimes and I'll banter with the crowd on my side of the ring. That's not for everybody, but you're making a moment for those people. Always be making moments, always be doing things for people around you. Try to create those things that they'll be like the things that don't perform just for the camera, perform for the building, perform for everyone at all times.
And to add to that, as far as if you're being a heel and you're a rookie heel, your enemy is not the guy in the ring. Your enemy is the crowd. I always think of it, if you ever seen the Quick and the Dead, it's a Western movie where the town hires a gunman to come kill the mayor. And he has a showdown with this hitman. He shoots him in the legs, and the crowd, the town is like crowded around him. And as he shoots the man, he's shooting the man's limbs. He's practically working on him. He's working a heat. Every time he shoots the guy, he looks at the crowd and he goes, "Is this the best your money could buy?" Shoots him again. This is what you think I am. This is how weak you think I am. Shoots him again. Oh, he can't even get up now. Do you guys feel pathetic? Where'd you get the money for this guy? And he's battering him. His enemy was the crowd. Just like as a heel, you got to think of your opponent as an avatar for the crowd. So when you're beating him up, yeah, he's garbage, but your enemy is the crowd, and constant interaction with the crowd is so important. And not enough people do it. And if you think you do a little bit, you got to do a lot. You got to do it constantly. You win or lose, you're practically having an argument with the crowd for the entire match. And I feel like it's imperative to get heat in modern day independent wrestling to constantly get the attention of the crowd.
And just to add one little tiny thing to that, if you're a heel and you're coming out to the ring first, which usually you are, the crowd doesn't even know who you're facing. They don't have to know. If they're not cheering them by the time they come out through the curtain, not having even seen them yet, then you're not doing your job enough as a heel. The crowd should want to cheer whoever comes out next, just because they already hate you so much in your 2 minutes of being at ringside. Like, you can literally make the heel's job makes the face's job so much easier. Like, we've wrestled people before and we come to the ring and we're already getting cheered and we haven't even done anything because the crowd already hates the guy who came out first so much.
Like, we were turned face in a company once just by having a really good heel team come out, and they were so heel and they were such assholes that by the time we came out, we were moderately cheered like faces. And then when we got attacked after the match, we were practically faces from then on. There was no actual turn. We never did any the good guy thing. Like we never saved anybody, but they did such good heel work that we could trust them to turn us face, and it actually worked. That's a mark of a good heel.
The funny thing is, like, the difference between face stepdads and heel stepdads is not. It's a very thin line.
Yes.
When we're faces, it's me making fun of the heels and like going at the heels, and when we're heels, it's just me making fun of the crowd instead. That's the only difference. It's slightly more risque depending on the show. That's
and sometimes it's directly at the children too, where we'll be really nice to their parents and compliment them on how much they make the kids go to bed early and things like that. And let me tell you, no kid will hate you more. Like no 6-year-old girl will hate you more than me walking up and high-fiving her dad and being like, "Yeah, you tell her to go to bed at 8 p.m. That sounds great. Maybe 7 p.m. I think you're right. 7 p.m. is great. Oh, you're a really good dad." Oh, they hate it. You're not even doing anything genuinely bad. You're just agreeing with somebody she lives with.
It sounds so funny because like when I think back like to like Daniel Bryan when he had his the whole save the world movement, and he was heel, and he genuinely got people to hate recycling, which was like incredible.
A good heel should never be completely wrong.
Yes.
Because they should believe in themselves, and for them to believe in themselves, they should have. It's just the way they go about it. Like, look at the best example in recent the world is Thanos. Like, he's not wrong. They even show it in the movies. The environment is improving because of what he did, but the way he's going about it is the part that's wrong. Like, a good heel should never just be like, "Now I'm bad, haha." Like, that's who can't. But why? Like, you should have a reason. There should always be a reason that makes sense to at least them. And the crowd looks at them and goes, "He's not wrong, but he's just such an asshole about it." That's the good heel.
Yeah, no, you're right. I remember like full transparency for people, and hopefully they're not listening. But like during Infinity War, I remember like being conflicted with so much emotion and sitting down in my car for like 20 minutes just trying to process everything. I was like, I don't know what happened, but he's not wrong. Like half of everybody should have gone. And I only got it confirmed through Hawkeye. So appreciate you, Jeremy Renner, for the coffee cup.
Yeah. It should be the theory it's like the theory should make sense. It should be the methods that are the thing people have problems with.
Right.
Exactly.
So last question I have for you guys before we get into the second best segment of the 3 Count podcast, I need one do and one don't of the locker room.
Brad, you want to go first?
One do and one don't.
I'm trying to think too.
Boy.
Do, I mean, a big one for us is just keep it light. Be the kind of guy in the locker room you would want to hang around with. Not every guy on a baseball team is an all-star, but you need those glue guys that just keep the locker room light, keep it fun, hype people up. Like, be that guy. That's a do. Like, be the guy that people want to be around in the locker room. Don't be the downer. Don't be the guy who's there hyping everybody else up, getting everybody else hyped for their matches. Don't if someone goes to fist bump you, don't go to shake their fist. That's
screw you, Wade. I know he's talking about. What jerk. All right, we might have to explain that story later. It's not as bad as it sounds. Anyway, I would say do feel like it's okay to give more than take when you are planning your matches. Because if you have 3 moments in the match, if you have 20 moments in the match, if you're a good wrestler, you'll be able to work those into a perfect match. Never, like, the less conflict with the people you're working with that night, the better. You don't want to go in there with tension. You want to leave with tension. If you're a good enough
reason,
wrestler,
obviously.
Yeah, exactly. You should be able to understand that, like, no matter what you're given that day, a minute in a battle royal. We've gotten over more in 2 minutes in a battle royal than we have in a 30-minute scramble. Those are two matches we had, within the same year, within the same couple months, and I would say in the battle royal we had more, just because of what we did. So like, don't think about opportunities as like money. Like you have to have all the money. You don't have to have all the opportunities in the world. If you know what you're doing, just take what you can get and move on. Don't forget to wash your gear.
Yeah.
Don't smell. If you do smell, bring body spray. Bring deodorant.
Yeah, shave your armpits.
Shave
Or
your
don't
armpits
shave
if you
them,
have
trim
to.
them.
Yeah.
Just look professional. It's not complicated. Like,
Yeah. Like nobody will say anything. Everyone will know. And no one's gonna be like to your face, but if you want to wrestle everyone in that company, including the top guys, you're gonna want them to want to wrestle you. And nobody wants to be the guy where they're like, oh, do I have to wrestle that? Can you like make it a 3-way or something? I don't want to lock up with that guy. Stinks. The easiest thing to fix about yourself is if you stink or not. Okay.
And then so a legitimate don't, I would say don't do give advice if it's asked for, or don't be walking around giving unsolicited advice. It just comes off weird. Even if you mean well, it's like always have a discussion first before you're just like, hey, you could even just frame it the right way. Like frame it as a compliment sandwich. Be like, hey, I really liked how you did this. Maybe don't tell people what to do. Just kind of there's ways to do it that's better. Just don't be the guy who's like, oh, I'm gonna go around bluntly being like, oh, that sucked. That's no one wants that.
And
some of the best advice we got wasn't like, hey, you did this wrong. It was like, hey, I liked this spot. Here's how I would have done it, maybe to give you a different viewpoint on how maybe you could do it in the future.
And on the other side of the coin, do listen to absolutely all the advice people give you. Listen to it.
You don't have to take,
but you don't have to take any of it.
You don't have to take all the advice you're given, but it's always good to listen to it.
Because at the end of the day, even if you don't take any of their advice, you're building bonds with brothers that you're going to see for years and years. And we know people that we didn't take any of their advice at all, but they appreciated the fact that we sat there and listened to them to the point where they knew in the future they could talk to us again about opportunities or about something else that we were interested in that did benefit us later. It's more respect, and it's more about building friendships with these people that you're literally working with all the time.
Even when I say the advice stuff, it's it's all about respect. Like if you go up to someone and you're like, hey, this sucked, don't do it that way. Who wants to hear that? There's people in the locker room who like to give advice, but they give it in a way that's so abrasive that it makes them come off like an asshole, even though in their mind they're trying to help. But if you go up to someone and you're like, hey, I watched the match, I enjoyed this. Throw in a thing that you think they could improve. Hey, this spot, it looked like something went off here. Maybe try this next time. But I liked this. Compliment sandwich. I always the compliment sandwich. People are more willing to listen if you're not just you're wrong. This is wrong. Be say a good thing, throw in the advice or the negative and frame it in the right way, and then throw in the positive.
Oh, and don't be that guy that says every match is great. You don't have to tell someone their match is great, okay? Please, if my match sucked, please tell me I didn't really like your match. Don't tell me it's great.
Especially if I ask. If I come up to you, if I'm sitting in the corner and I'm obviously not having a good time, don't go up and be like, hey, bro, the match sucked. But if I'm like, hey, man, did you watch the match? How'd it go? Be honest. Don't lie to me. If I'm asking,
oh man, I genuinely I would love to be a fly on the wall for someone that if you had a bad match, it was a bad match, but you don't ask about it, and someone just, hey man, that match sucks, and you'd be like,
Oh, it happened recently. I was very upset about it.
Yeah, recently I had a match that I absolutely hated, and I was storming around in the back, and one of our agents walked by, and he just looked at me and waved me over, and I went, yeah, I know. And I just walked away, and I was like, at least he knows. He wasn't gonna lie to me.
But so we'll get into the second best segment of this podcast. People ask me what's the first. It's the Red Dogs Power Rankings that you can find every Sunday on our debate show. But this is the 3 Count Podcast, 10 count questions, and this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you, rapid fast. Whatever's your answer, that's your answer.
So just like first thought, one word, or just
Yep.
Are we
Okay.
both doing it, or are we going back and forth? How are we doing
Oh yeah, I
that?
expect to hear two. I expect to hear two answers
okay
Oh, Jesus.
at the same time?
if you want to.
I don't think we can coordinate
Gotta
that.
time it. All right, so we'll put on the imaginary timer for add pressure. Bing, and here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Raw.
See, already on the same page. Favorite movie?
Aliens.
Office Space.
Okay. Sonic or Mario?
Sonic.
Sonic.
Favorite color?
Green.
Blue.
Golf or watching the game?
The game of golf?
We could go with that.
I'm gonna go watching the game because I watch a lot of sports.
I like to play golf, so I'll say play golf.
Okay. Favorite submission?
Sharpshooter.
Rings
Sorry,
of Saturn.
Scorpion Deathlock. Sorry, let's get that right.
Definitely Rings of Saturn.
Okay. Would you rather be mowing the lawn or painting the wall?
Painting the
Mowing the
wall.
lawn.
I want
Look
to
at
be
that. We got the
inside.
house. We got the whole house done.
Put me inside the air conditioning.
All right. Favorite podcast?
Ooh. What is my favorite part? I got it right here.
How did this get made?
That's what I was gonna say too. Yep. How'd this get made?
I like it. I like it. Nominate one person that you want to see on this show.
Mike Skyros. Has he already been here?
No, not yet.
Mike Skyros.
Johnny
coward.
Cockstrong.
Yeah.
You'd have a great conversation with him.
All right. And last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person that comes on the show: favorite curse word?
Fuck. It's the duct tape of the English language.
Yeah, I'll go. How about I go with bollocks? I'm gonna go British.
Oh, I mean, if we're going British, I mean,
Oh
Cunt
no,
is-
no.
cunt is a
Cunt.
great word.
Yeah.
It's their fuck. It's their duct tape.
No, I'll go with the good old shit.
Could I throw in a favorite like rude phrase also?
Go ahead.
Suck my ass with a straw. It's a thing I've been saying a lot lately to people I disagree with.
I'm not. You know what? I like that. I'll share one too. So I was on a Twitter space, right? And I was listening to some people like throw out some advice and stuff like that, and they were talking about like they're talking about some issues that were happening, and just one person goes, "You know what I told that person? Suck my dick backwards." And I was like,
Suck my dick from the back. Shout out Jake.
I was
Greenwood.
like, you know what? Like I like this.
That's such a like I'm disgusted with you. Like in my head I'm just like, oh, suck my dick from the back. Get out of here.
I was like, I heard that. I was like, you know what? I feel like this is something that's gonna catch on. I'm just gonna say it now forever.
It's a great one. It's truly fantastic.
So those are all my questions that I do have for you guys. So the last thing I need is for you guys to let our viewers and our listeners know where they can find y'all.
Well, I have a question for you first.
Okay.
You know, rapid fire. Favorite stepdad.
Favorite stepdad?
Ever.
Let's see. My favorite stepdad? Mark Wahlberg.
Fair.
Yeah.
I would have.
All
We
right,
would also
okay.
would have accepted Mike Brady.
John Cena, if he ever sees me.
Oh, if you ever see him.
But yeah. He one day he came in, he's like, I'm gonna get milk, and I just haven't seen him since. So
I mean, yeah, wouldn't John Cena be the worst stepdad? He disappears all the time.
all the time. You hear his voice.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
One day he
I can't
disappeared
see
and never
you.
came back.
Put a t-shirt on.
All right.
So sorry, I totally interrupted you. What was our?
Social
I-
media Wade. That's what he wants
Oh,
to
yeah.
you
get
got
to.
it.
Well, let's see. We got everything's pretty much marked at Stepdads Wrestling or at Stepdads Wrestle. So we got YouTube at Stepdads Wrestling, Instagram at Stepdads Wrestling, Twitter is at Stepdads Wrestle. as well as a Patreon we have for Stepdads Wrestling. ProWrestlingTees.com/Stepdads. We have 4 different types of Stepdads t-shirts on there. Get them for your dad for Father's Day, your stepdad. You know, he'll probably think it's some weird ABC family sitcom he doesn't remember, but that's okay as long as you buy it.
Yeah, and if you are searching for us on YouTube, Stepdads, one word. If you put a space, we are not liable for what you might see weirdly on the internet if you put a space between Stepdads and Wrestle.
Stepdads
or like
Wrestle
between Stepdads.
All one word. I don't want to think
weird
about
out
anything
there.
else. As well as TikTok Stepdads Wrestling, and yeah, I think that's it. We're also going to be wrestling for Test of Strength soon. I believe in a couple of weeks. Survival Championship Wrestling is coming up this weekend. Let me check the date there. That's the 22nd. And New World Wrestling Extreme in May.
And then
that's just the beginning.
Aside from the Stepdads pages, if anyone would like to follow me on social media, pretty much everything Wade Kruger 1. Wade Kruger, the way it's spelt down here, with 2 E's. Some people don't include the first E. It's just like Freddie. But yeah, Wade Kruger 1 on Twitter. If you want to see my hot takes on why the Devils are terrible or other random nonsense. Instagram, if you want to probably have me not accept your follow request. No, I probably will. It's private just because I'm weird. And on TikTok, also Wade Kruger 1, if you want to see my weird TikToks as a 30-year-old man going through a midlife crisis.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
33-year-old man. Sorry, it was my birthday the other day.
We need to make we need a move. We need a move called the midlife crisis. We got to get on that.
Yeah, I'm already dealing with it. Already working on it.
All right, good.
Well, there you guys have it. So you guys have all their handles. You guys know where to find them, and you know what that means. We gotta take this home, all right? Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller. That's right, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, you gotta have somebody who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. And that's why it's never about me, but it's about who's entering the ring. And you see him right next to me, Bradley Belmont, Wade Kruger, the Stepdads. So you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you just wait for this episode to end. You wait for the outro, and then you choose another episode to listen to. Peace.
As we would say, be there and be square.
What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. At ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.
Didn't know their name, so
I knew their name. I just didn't get to say it enough time. Like he doesn't know. So we had a wrestler named the Mighty Bosch, and as we're about to record, nobody tells me we're recording yet until I notice we're recording, and I'm like in my head, I'm like, don't say Boosh, don't say Boosh, and I go the Mighty Boosh immediately. And I try to turn into a joke, but it's not funny. And so I'm like, please restart the whole podcast.
I mean, the Mighty Boosh is a real thing, so I get it.
And I was like, all I needed was like 3 seconds to say it to myself. Come on.
Nope,
and I never met. I don't know if you noticed. I said Bosch like 50 more times in the podcast just to really hammer it down.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah.
Bet.